Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. Some of the absolute scariest and outright strangest monsters ever imagined are rooted in the mythology and folklore of the Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe and Russia. A lot of the creatures bear a striking resemblance to other mythical creatures of European origin. Dragons, vampires, demons, goblins, and creatures of the water and the nighttime are all present. All have an air of familiarity about them, and yet there is something that makes the Slavic creatures even more otherworldly and even disturbing. This program will discuss some of the most famous and most vile monsters of Slavic mythology. Our first monster is a winged demon called the Striga. Often shown in a female form, and rarely shown in the male form, the Striga was said to be an ominous, large-headed bird with a human-like face, human fingers that curved into razor-sharp talons, gray bat wings, yellowed eyes, and a long voracious beak with which it used to drink the blood of its victims or feed on their bodies. Her breath was said to be toxic, easily ending the lives of her preferred prey, sleeping infants. The Striga was said to be born from people who were born with 2 hearts, 2 souls, or a double row of teeth. In Slavic beliefs, the Striga often died at a young age, but when one soul left, the other survived to begin its hunt. These undead creatures were believed to fly at night in the form of an owl, and attack nighttime travelers and people who had wandered off into the woods at night, sucking out their blood and eating their entrails. The creature could be recognized by a characteristic blue glow that surrounded its body at night, and their victims could be recognized by their left eye that always remained open in a dead stare. It was possible to defend against the Striga by hanging branches of hawthorn in the window, sprinkling the threshold with holy water, or giving it the blood of a pig to drink. As with many dark vampiric creatures, the Striga could be killed when exposed to sunlight, or when its head was separated from its neck. The Leshy, or Leshavik, are male Slavic forest guardians. As big as a tree or as small as a leaf, these shape-shifting spirits wander the woods, protecting animals and tormenting humans that they come across. They serve as protectors of the forests and its wildlife, having a particularly close bond with gray wolves, and often being accompanied by bears. They naturally are the form of large, human-looking beings, but can shapeshift into any plant or animal they choose. They have long hair and beards, made of living grass and foliage, and are said to change size depending on where they stand in the forest. At the forest center, they are a tree-like giant, who camouflage nicely with their long limbs, grassy eyebrows, and no detectable shadows. However, their eyes are always apparent, colored very bright and green. As they venture further away from the center of their forests, they become smaller. By the time they have reached the forest's edge, they are tiny enough to hide under leaves. The Leshy is said to be unable to communicate in human speech, but rather he makes forest noises instead, mimicking the sounds of animals, birds, or rustlings of trees, or the babbling of a brook. Like many other nature spirits and deities of mythology, the Leshy often acts as a mediator between farmers and the wilds, occasionally protecting livestock from being preyed upon by wolves. Although lore describes these spirits as non-evil, the Leshy has no particular love for humans, most commonly engaging in misleading travelers on wrongful paths deeper into the trees. The Leshy was not known to be friendly to loggers or hunters, and would lure them away, or even attack them if he believed they had threatened too much of his home. Leshies have also been known to remove signs and steal axe heads from woodcutters, or cause accidents. The Leshy may even kidnap people who trespass into his realm. Legend suggests that if those who have been kidnapped by the Leshy refrain from eating his food, they may escape his domain. Those who escape are described as looking wild and distraught. Some have lost powers of speech or the ability to reason. However, not all encounters with the Leshy are unpleasant. Allegedly, if you encounter him, but get him to laugh, you will be safe. If a person manages to befriend a Leshy, they will in return receive the secrets of magic. Looming up out of the murky depths are the Vodyanoi, or Vodnik, water spirits that are said to appear as a naked old man with a frog-like face, greenish beard, and long hair, with his body covered in algae and muck, usually covered in black fish scales. Consequently, he is often referred to as grandfather or forefather by the local people. He has webbed paws instead of hands, a fish's tail, and eyes that burn like red-hot coals. Vodyanoi are never seen too far away from their watery abodes, as their power on land is infantile, but they are virtually invincible in the water. They usually float in rivers, streams, or ponds on half-sunken logs, making obnoxiously loud splashes as they go. Though they enjoy upsetting others, should they become upset, they will not hesitate to break dams, destroy water mills, or drown people and animals. In lieu of drowning, a Vodyanoi may drag their victim down to their watery realm, and make slaves of them for all eternity. Russian peasants maintained a belief that anyone who dared to approach a body of water after dark risked a Vodyanoi attack. They have a preference for attacking inexperienced swimmers, but will also place alluring items such as ribbons or hand mirrors near the banks of water bodies to entice fishermen closer before ambushing them. They have been known to marry drowned or disinherited girls, although they will occasionally target happily married women. Like most freshwater creatures, they are believed to hibernate during the winter months, and when they awaken in the spring, they crush the ice in the river and disperse it about. As with the Leshy, the Vodyanoi can be selectively benevolent towards people. If they happen to be in a good mood, they may guide fish into fishermen's nets, or warn them against impending floods. In some instances, fishermen would even place a pinch of tobacco on the surface of the water, in hopes that the resident Vodyanoi would give them a fish in return. Or at least, not kill them. The Bieda is a primeval demon and an immortal shapeshifter who brings misfortune, misery, hardship, and grief wherever she may roam. She wanders the earth as an unusually tall and slender woman, no larger than a fragile twig, and adorns herself in tattered rags. She nourishes herself on human happiness and luck, draining it from her victims, along with their vital forces. Once she chooses her targets, she settles down in their household. Her presence can be noticed right away in a series of troubles happening without warning. She can turn herself into any object or animal she desires, and it was thus advised to watch out for any new thing that had suddenly appeared in the house. Birds like sparrows or swallows who had built their nests under the roof, but never seemed to lay eggs. Or lone mice who seemed to be smarter than the cats. Beata is an immortal being and thus cannot be killed. Many people have tried to burn or drown the object or creature she turned into, but she would then escape, squealing and screeching loudly, only to turn herself again or hide into another object. She could feed herself on a single family until everyone within had died. Therefore, it was necessary to find her and remove the unfamiliar object far from the household. The Drakovok, whose name means screamer or screecher, is a creature variously depicted in the form of an undead man that crawled out of the grave during the night to haunt people, as an undead, unbaptized child that rose from its grave to haunt its parents, or even in the form of a humanoid canine creature that walks on its hind legs and preys upon travelers in the countryside, or stray children out after dark. Whatever its appearance, the Drakovok is considered among the most foul and dreadful of creatures ever imagined. Its screaming, mainly heard coming from a graveyard, is said to be a cry for baptism. Though in some places, should it scream outside a house all night, one lodger from the house will die soon. Other than its terrible scream, a Drakovok may engage in falling on a person, or allowing its shadow to cross a person. In either case, the victim will soon fall ill and die. When assuming the form of a child, it is a sign of someone's imminent death. When seen in its animal form, it predicts cattle disease. The people of Serbia and Bosnia believed that one will only encounter a Drakovok if one were to dream of a Drakovok. If this is the case, then death is within the Drakovok's power through strangulation of the subject while they lie asleep in bed, though it will only target those who have mistreated it in life. For defense against the Drakovok, a dog must be obtained, for it is known the Drakovok is afraid of them. It also dislikes sunlight, which is why a Drakovok's screaming is usually only heard at night or through dense fog. Among Slavic rural communities, the Drakovok is used as a cautionary tale to scare children into obedience. Despite this well-known method, true belief in it can exist in some adults, whereupon some attest to having witnessed corpses of the creature. Our final monster for this program is the Zimy. In Slavic mythology, the word Zimy and its cognates are used to refer to dragons and other massive serpents. Although they may at times resemble the classic depiction of European folklore, such as the one in the Epic of Beowulf, complete with wings, fire breath, and a reptilian appearance, the Zimy may arguably be much more powerful. And unlike most European dragons, Slavic dragons were not always completely evil. Slavic dragons are incredibly smart tricksters, capable of using cunning in addition to brute force to kidnap maidens and toy with a story's hero. Like many gods and demons of mythology, they possess the power to shapeshift, frequently taking the form of humans, often for sexual purposes. They were even capable of having children with people, and the offspring of dragons and humans were thought to become brave warriors and heroes. Dragons, like the gods, were sometimes thought to have power over a specific element or area. A satisfied dragon could provide help or a positive form of their element to a village. In the south, the Shmi were seen as protectors, defending from brutal storms that could hit the Balkans, ravaging farms and villages. In Eastern Slavic tales, particularly Russian fairy tales, dragons are typically enemies to be vanquished by the bogatyr. Some of the most famous Slavic dragons include Shmi Gorenich, a dangerous, multi-headed beast large enough to block out the sun with his massive wings. Chudo-Yudo, who guards the Slavic underworld, and the Kalamov bridge into it. And Smok Wawelski, the Wawel dragon who plagued the capital city of the legendary King Krak. No matter their interpretation, Slavic dragons, as with the dragons of other cultures, are equal parts feared and honored. These are but a taste of the bizarre and frightening creatures to appear in Slavic mythology and folklore. Some may bear a resemblance to other creatures found throughout European folklore, yet there is a unique twist to each of them that makes them their own entity. Many are distinctly tied with nature, serving as protectors of the forests and waterways, who punish and torment human beings who wander into their worlds. Some are truly creatures of darkness, mirroring some of mankind's worst fears about each other and the world we inhabit. And then there are some who succeed at doing both. The monsters and creatures of Slavic mythology have been used both to entertain as well as to frighten people for generations, and they continue to do so in many modern fantasy stories that feature them.